President Trump honored the 13 American service members who were killed in Joe Biden's disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal 3 years ago. August 30th, 2021, Joe Biden runs the horrific Afghanistan withdrawal. It was mishandled on basically every single level. We gave the Taliban billions of dollars worth of military equipment. Over a dozen American service members were killed. President Trump just came out on that anniversary. Biden wasn't there. Harris wasn't there. I'm not sure they were invited. But Trump came out at Arlington and paid his respects. Now, Trump has tied the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal to Kamala Harris. In remarks, he said not just Biden, but also Kamala Harris. And the Democrats, the operatives and the flacks in the media, I guess there's not much of a distinction between the two, they have said that this isn't fair. This is Trump politicizing what? Politicizing one of the biggest political events of the last 5 or 10 years, the Afghanistan withdrawal. So of course it's a political event. But they say, well, it's unfair to tie it to Kamala Harris. Joe Biden was the president. Kamala Harris was not the president. And Kamala Harris is now the nominee, but she's not responsible for the Biden-Harris administration. No, not if you believe Kamala Harris. No, Joe Biden, on multiple occasions, has imbued Kamala Harris with presidential authority. But specifically on the Afghanistan withdrawal, if you listen to Kamala Harris's own words, she acknowledges that she was the last person in the room with the president when that decision was made.
Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do.
Yes, I was the last person in the room. I feel comfortable. I own Biden's decision for how he's going to withdraw from Afghanistan. I'm responsible. That's what she's saying. I share responsibility for what happens as a result of that decision. And the decision ended in disaster. So now the only other objection the libs can make now is, well, look, yeah, it was disastrous. Yeah, it was bad. And yes, Kamala is in part responsible, even in her own words. But look, no one could have known. No one could have predicted that kind of attack, killing those service members, could have possibly happened in a rapid Afghanistan withdrawal. Who could have predicted that? And the answer and the reason that Trump is totally justified in levying this political attack, the answer is Trump predicted it 4 years before the withdrawal, almost to the day.
The consequences of a rapid exit are both predictable and unacceptable. 9/11, the worst terrorist attack in our history, was planned and directed from Afghanistan because that country was ruled by a government that gave comfort and shelter to terrorists. A hasty withdrawal would create a vacuum that terrorists, including ISIS and Al-Qaeda, would instantly fill, just as happened before September 11th.
Check, 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 check. Every single thing he predicted has come true, which I think totally justifies Trump's political attacks here. I think it totally justifies Kamala being the object of the political attacks, or the target of the political attacks. But it's also a reminder, while we talk about how great Trump was for the economy, when we talk about how relatively Trump good was for the border, when we talk about how good Trump was for this, that, and the other thing, Donald Trump was the best foreign policy president since at least George H.W. Bush. George H.W. Bush, whatever other weaknesses of his presidency, he was a pretty good foreign policy president. He presided over the collapse of the Soviet Union, and it was a peaceful collapse of the Soviet Union. He was the man behind Operation Desert Storm, and they got all the best stuff out of that without any of the downsides that the later invasion of Iraq would bring to us. So George H.W. Bush was pretty good. Ronald Reagan was a pretty good foreign policy president. But certainly since at least those guys, Donald Trump is the best foreign policy president we had. Better than that super genius wonk Bill Clinton, who really screwed up things in the Middle East, in many ways set the stage for Osama bin Laden and the 2001 attack, screwed up things in Africa. He was not a great foreign policy president. George W. Bush We famously mishandled certain aspects of foreign policy. Barack Obama was a disaster on foreign policy in Libya and Egypt and elsewhere in the Middle East. Biden obviously has been awful. You've had two major wars break out on his watch, a major war in Eastern Europe, first major war in Europe since World War II. And in fact, he invited that war. He said if there's a minor incursion into Ukraine by Russia, it won't be that big of a deal. Vladimir Zelensky, president of Ukraine, blames Joe Biden for that war. And then, of course, the war Israel-Gaza because of muddying the waters on our alliances with regard to Israel, also Saudi Arabia, also Iran. So total disaster. Trump, whatever you want to say about his language and his tweeting and his this and his that, is the most sophisticated foreign policy president in at least a quarter century. That was a good clip, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Now, ring the bell to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.